So one of the reasons why this goddamn video is so late is because yesterday I had to go and get like an old lady vaccine. I don't know how else to describe it. It's one of those vaccines you're supposed to get the older you get, and I'm getting older and I had to go get it. And I was so tired that I couldn't form a thought. I couldn't read. I sat on my couch and I stared at a wall. I'm not kidding, for 3 hours. So I'm feeling better today. We're editing the video now, but I'm warning you, chaos may ensue. I have pre-recorded the video. I need to edit the video I have already recorded, but there may be insertions of Loopy Summer. You have been warned. On with the intro. Hi there, welcome to another episode of whatever this is this week. My name is Summer Cannon. In case you're new here, I am a horror writer, but also I'm a horror fan. And one of my favorite things to do in the whole wide world is talk about spooky stuff, scary stuff, mostly books, sometimes movies. And I want to make sure that this space stays positive. We're not going to shit talk anybody. If I do have something bad to say, I'll let you know that it's coming up, or I'm just not going to talk about it. We're only here to say nice things because there's enough going on right now. We want to keep it happy. Okay. I'm sorry. This ring light is just not working with my glasses, but I need my glasses to see. It's night. There's just, okay. Okay. So this is February's reading recommendations, movie recommendations, stuff that I did. It is now, as I'm recording this, March 4th. This won't be put up until March 5th. Have I mentioned previously how much I hate the month of February? I hate the month of February so much. It seems like everybody else hates January because it goes on for like 20 years, but I hate February so much. By the time March comes around, we're getting into normal sized months again. Spring's starting to come around. Like, I don't mind winter. I'm a cold weather creature anyway. I like kind of rotting in my house during the winter, but it is nice to start planting my garden again and being able to go out on my patio or sit on my front porch. It's just, it's a season of change right now, and February is over, so it's all good. I read 2 books in February, and they're both anthologies. And let me just have a moment about this, because as an author, I know that anthologies and short story collections, and there is a difference. Let's take a little side road here real quick. An anthology is a collection of short stories by different authors. A short story collection is a collection of short stories by the same author. There is a difference. I see people get that mixed up. I love them both. But as an author, as someone who does this and has to sell these things, they're not money makers. Anthologies that are put out through small presses, they usually have Kickstarters associated with them to cover some of the costs, because sales-wise, they almost never make the cost back. And short story collections, they sell terribly. And I find that weird because I love them. I love short stories. I love them collected in any way by multiple authors or one author. I think a short story is one of the best ways to gauge how good an author is with their words. It's a really good way to kind of gauge if their style works with your tastes. And I do not understand why more people don't run to them. I saw another author on Facebook mention that she tends to weave in and out of them. It's not something she can sit and focus on a lot. And I guess I can see that, but the stories are short. You read one story. If that's it for the day, that's it for the day. Now, in anthologies and short story collections, there is usually, like a lot of short story collections from a single author, they will sometimes end the collection with a longer piece, maybe a novelette, but definitely longer. And in anthologies, there's always that person, you know, they'll tell us, turn in a story 2,000 to 4,000 words. If you need more words, let us know. And there's always that author that wrote like the 9,000 word story and they put it right in the middle. And as a reader, as an author, I'm more understanding, but as a reader, stop that. Hi again.
I wanted to just break in here to explain. I think I got a little black and white on this one because, yes, when you're reading an anthology or a collection of stories where most of the stories are kind of snappy and short and to the point, when they smash a huge long story in the middle of the book, what you can sometimes end up doing as a reader is you start comparing it to the rest of the stories where you're used to a certain cadence of reading. You're used to the rest of the stories being quicker. And then you end up on this longer story. It can feel unfairly sometimes like a slog. And the anthology that I'm reading right now, they're all longer pieces. One of them had chapters and I'm still having a blast reading it. It's not that I don't love longer short stories. It's I personally don't like when the rest of the stories in the anthology are shorter and then they sort of mash a longer one in there because, at least for me, and maybe I'm just a horrible, unfair person, but I don't give that story a fair shake because I'm comparing it to the rest of the anthology. So that's the frustrating part, not the story itself. I hope that clears it up.
But the first anthology that I read it was edited by a first-time editor. I don't know if it's edited by two people. I know one person in particular, this was their first. I don't know about the other one. The book is called Beyond the Bounds of Infinity, edited by Vaughn A. Jackson and Stephanie Pearre. I think that's how it's pronounced. And this is an anthology that it says on the cover, it brags, it is an anthology of diverse horror. And it is. The main characters in all of this are everything that is diverse, that is currently, I don't want to get, no, you know what, let's get a little political. It's stories about people that are currently being minimized by the government. They're currently being brought down and having their civil liberties stripped of them. And we should read stories from people like that so that we can remember their people, not talking points. And I got this because I wanted it. I didn't get it to feel superior or like I can pass some sort of purity test or anything. I got it because I like reading and I like reading horror stories. And this one was marketed as kind of weird. It's a lot of weird fiction, but it's a lot of also, there's a lot of stuff that leans really heavily into cosmic horror, which I love. And these stories were all really good. They really were. A stroke of genius from the editors, though. I have to give them a tip of the hat to this. They opened with a story called The Birth of Sound by an author named Timaeus Bloom. And this story, it's the only one I'm really going to talk about because there are a lot of stories in this book. And there are authors in it that you will recognize, a lot of names you'll recognize, a lot of new names. And not a single stinker in the bunch, to be honest, really. I didn't maybe love all of them to fawn over them, but I never read one and went, blah. No, they were all good. They were all well written. They were all imaginative stories. I really, really liked this book. But The Birth of Sound by Timaeus Bloom, it opens the book. There's a foreword, but then this story opens the book. And it's so, it was just, it's a feeling kind of story where, okay, think Welcome to Night Vale and the whole radio section from the most recent bout of Twin Peaks. Real weird, real unsettling, and it was the perfect way to open an anthology. Absolutely perfect. I finished that story and I was like, oh, I'm in for something here. This is going to be great. Very well done. Definitely recommend. The second one that I read, it's this little tiny paperback that I picked up at Vortex Books. It's called The Graveyard Reader, edited by Groff Conklin. That's a fantastic name. Now, if Groff Conklin is someone that you know, please leave me alone. I'd never heard of this person. They died in the 60s. I don't know everybody, but I know I did a little research on him, and he was famous for being an anthologist. He put together the internet wanted to say it was a lot of sci-fi, science fiction and stuff, but I saw quite a few horror anthologies under his name too. This one It's 12 terrifying tales, it says along the thing. But this book came out in, which one was it? It was 1958, I think. Yep, 1958. And it's still in such good shape. I don't know if you can see the good shape that spine is still in. I was terrified. I did not want to crack that spine. So I was reading it like this. So I wouldn't crack the spine. This is fantastic. It's ghost stories, a lot of grave stories. There's a lot of graveyard tales. It's called The Graveyard Reader. That's the name of one of the stories inside, actually. But it's a lot of, maybe not necessarily ghosts. There are ghosts, but it's more death. And it's more graves and being around dead bodies. There's a lot of that. There are 12 stories in here. And this is the list of you're going to be surprised by one of these. And I'm going to tell you, this person wrote a fantastic story. Charles Beaumont, Ambrose Bierce, Ray Bradbury, John Collier, Mary Elizabeth Councilman, Roald Dahl, Richard Hughes, Henry Kuttner, H.P. Lovecraft, Fitz James O'Brien, Theodore Sturgeon, and Wallace West. Roald Dahl wrote one for it. And it's a fantastic story. They're all light. They're not heavy, but they're creepy. They're good at that. They're good at being atmospheric and kind of, if they had a color, they'd all be gray, you know? And this was fantastic. I will say, because of the time it was published in, there are certain things, not in intent, but in language, that did not age well. Fair warning there. And that's it. That's the two books. I was looking because I was like, I honestly didn't mean for both books that I read this month to be anthologies. I wanted to read more, but I've been held captive by the news far too often. I'm going to try to start backing off and do things that will keep me alive. But I was looking at my TBR over there, and easily half of that stack is anthologies or short story collections. Like I said, I do love them. I love reading them. I love talking about them. And honestly, the book I'm reading right now is another short story collection. I'll try to get a full-length tale by just one author in for March as well, so we can talk about something other than short stories. But again, I love them. It's, you know, if you run into an author you've never met before and you find out they're in this anthology, there are always going to be authors whose names you recognize, authors you're familiar with in an anthology, because that helps sell them. But then you can become acquainted with other authors you're not familiar with through there, and it's in a short form. It's going to take you at most an hour to read their tale. And I don't understand why they don't sell so well, because I eat them up. My bookshelves are crammed with short story collections and anthologies. Okay, so this month, once it became available on Peacock, I watched Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. And again, in the vein of, I'm not going to talk bad about anything, I'm not going to have a lot to say about this movie. And Robert Eggers I love his aesthetic. I love the way his movies look. I am not someone who hates Robert Eggers, but I'm also not a diehard fan either. The thing about this movie is it was too long, and by the time it ended, I came away feeling kind of cold. I didn't feel hot one way or another about it. I didn't feel like, oh, that was great, or, oh, that was such a piece of shit. I just kind of felt nothing. And you really don't want that, especially if you see this movie and you see how it ends. You should be feeling something, and I really didn't. I will say, though, I've got two really good things to say about it, and they're really good. Bill Skarsgård. This is what he was made for, being the monster. He's so good at this. He's so good at being in the makeup. He's so good at the voice. He's so good at the physicality of embodying the monster. And it looked great. The Count Orlok looked gross. He looked creepy. Everything about him was unsettling. It was great. Where the fuck did Bill Skarsgård get that accent, though? I know I said I wouldn't say anything bad, but what is that accent? I gotta know. And the second thing that was really great about this is, I'm not spoiling anything, but the first half of the movie, Nicholas Hoult goes to Count Orlok to, you know the Dracula story, to help him sign the paper so that he can relocate. And he gets to the castle, and his entire time in the castle, interacting with Orlok, interacting with the rotten, falling apart castle, it's fantastic. There's a scene where he's standing in this great room with a giant fireplace behind him, and Orlok is almost phasing in different places around him, and he can't keep track of where he is, and he's talking to him the whole time, and he's trying so hard to maintain his cool, he's trying so hard to stay professional, and because he's there for a reason. He needs this job, he needs to be able to do well so that he can get his own place for his new wife, and he's trying so hard, but he's terrified, he's so scared, and Nicholas Hoult does a fantastic job of being terrified in this scene. That was excellently done. The rest of it, like I said, I won't be saying anything else, but I do understand why people liked it. The movie definitely, it has a look, and if you're someone who gets easily seduced by looks, I guess that would do it for you. I mean, some people do, no hate. It's just, I think I wanted more. I think, I don't know, if we're going to do Count Orlok, I kind of miss Klaus Kinski or Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe's in this, but I remember his turn as the monster, and yeah, I think I was just kind of let down by something that, I don't know. We're So, I'm currently watching a series, a limited series, that's actually kind of old. It's like from 2014, and it's about vampires. And we'll talk about it next month. I'll have other books to talk about, maybe another movie. I don't know, just trying to find things that are low stress, happy making, cozy, comfy, things like that. Anything to kind of, because that's what I'm needing to do at the end of the day. If that makes any sense. And that'll be it for February. I'm sorry. I'll get my shit together at the end of this month. Maybe. We'll see. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're familiar with any of these books, I don't think you can get The Graveyard Reader anymore, but I think you can look up the stories. A lot of these stories, you'd be surprised. You can find them to read for free online. If you want to talk about any of these, feel free to hit me up. I'm always happy to talk. And until the end of this month, I'll see you then. Happy reading, happy watching. Bye.